What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants season is almost over, but not quite yet. Still got 2 games left to play, and this season, it hasn't been a pretty one. The Giants are already eliminated from the playoffs. There's been a lot of disappointing performances from players across the board. However, there have been a few standouts, and in particular, taking a look at this Giants defense, right smack dab in the middle of it, there's been 2 standout players, arguably even 3, at the inside linebacker position. Now that is shocking to Giants fans who've been watching this team for decades with poor linebacker play. I mean, when was the last time the Giants had a linebacker on the level of Bobby Okereke? Maybe with Antonio Pierce back near Super Bowl 42? It's been a really long time, but not only is Bobby Okereke headlining that linebacker position and that linebacker core for the Giants, they've also got Micah McFadden, who's really established himself as a cornerstone piece for the New York Giants in his second season, and they have Isaiah Simmons, who I think has been really good this year. They acquired him for a 7th round draft pick right at the end of the preseason, and he stepped onto this team not in a full-time starting role, but in a depth and kind of rotational capacity, and has proven to be a pretty valuable player in Wink Martindale's defense. Now, will Wink Martindale be back next season as a defensive coordinator? That's a big-time question mark. I feel confident that he will be, and I really hope he is, because taking a look at the way that these linebackers in particular have developed in Martindale's system makes you really excited and makes you really confident in his abilities as the Giants defensive coordinator. So today, we're going to talk about this linebacker group that the New York Giants have, again, headlined by Bobby Okereke, followed by Micah McFadden, and a little bit of Isaiah Simmons mixed in there too. Really excited about this group, but I do think that it's one that we can have a lot of excitement for going into the offseason and confidence going into 2024 that this is going to be a pretty important piece of the New York Giants team next season. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And how are you feeling about the way that the Giants linebacker core has performed in 2023?
I'm doing pretty good, and listen, guys, I mean, when you look at the Giants, we know they have a lot of weaknesses, we know there's a lot of holes, we know there's a lot of problems that need to be solved, and, right off the bat, Evan Neal's obviously on IR, his season is done, has left ankle surgery, and we wait to see what the Giants do to solve an offensive line position that has been problematic for the better part of 5 years. I don't know how they're going to do this. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if it's going to be the draft or if it's going to be free agency or a trade. But we all know, God willing, we're going to find an offensive lineman that doesn't represent a Swiss cheese, a turnstile, a Trader Joe's bagger. I don't know. You pick. There are so many ways to explain the lack of competency on the offensive line for the Giants, whether it be coaching, talent. I think it's mostly development and coaching. There's no way Evan Neal went from being the player he was at Alabama to the player that we see today without significant lapses in coaching and development, in my opinion. I think most would agree with that. He's an athletic freak. What do you say? But let's talk about a position that actually has been, really good for us this year, actually, in linebacker. And this was a spot that, if the Giants made improvements at linebacker, similarly to the offensive line, we'd be a really solid team right now. The unfortunate reality is that while we improved at linebacker, we regressed at many other spots. However, let's talk about Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden, 2 players who have solidified themselves as really good players, a dynamic duo on this defense. Now, McFadden has some work to do. I think there is certainly some things he needs to improve upon. He's missed a lot of tackles this year. But the one thing I will say about Micah McFadden is those missed tackles normally happen in the offensive backfield. They usually happen because he gets there so fast that he just barely misses out on those tackles or tackle for losses, whatever it might be, stopping the line of scrimmage. He is always in the right place at the right time. He just fails to wrap up sometimes. I think getting a little bit stronger, maybe improving his hand grip, actually. Remember those, I don't know if your dad's ever used those crunchers, like, you grab those, like, circle things, and you know what I'm talking about. Maybe he needs some of those. Grab those hand freaking squeezy things that make your hand stronger, because he happens to slip out. A lot of people slip out of his tackles. This year, he has a 20.9% missed tackle rate. Obviously, not very good comparably. Okereke's at 7.9%. Imagine if he didn't miss those tackles. He has missed at least 2 tackles in his last 3 consecutive games. He's only had 1 game in his last, 3, 4, 5, 6 games where he's missed fewer than 2 tackles. Only 1 game. He missed 1 tackle against New England in Week 12, where he had his best coverage game as well, oddly. So Just looking at his stats in general, though, McFadden has 62 tackles this season with 14 pressures, 2 sacks, an 84.6% reception rate. He really hasn't been that involved in coverage. Okereke has taken over the majority of those opportunities. He's given up 79.5% reception rate, but at the end of the day, 277 yards allowed. Not bad for a linebacker. He has 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and gave up 2 touchdowns this season. So, Okereke not only has been good in coverage, but he's been excellent in tackling and an excellent run defender. Last week against Philadelphia wasn't his best, but for the most part, he's been really good this whole season. And we talked to him before the year started, and we told you guys, this guy is special. This guy is coming here with a purpose. I feel bad for him because he ended up joining a team that was really bad in the Giants, but this is a solution. This is a guy that has the upside to, I think, even get a little bit better. He's been playing through a fractured pinky or dislocated pinky, fractured ribs, a back injury. The guy's been banged up all season, but he's played through all of it and played well through all of it. I think that's really commendable. I respect him for that. He's a leader, and I think he's a great mentor to Micah McFadden. And for what it's worth, I think the positives we've seen from McFadden this year, I think Okereke certainly has a hand in it. I think being his running partner, that goes a long way. I think having a great player next to you, it makes you raise your game. It makes you play better. And I think that's, that dynamic duo could be a solution here for the next 3-4 years, or at least for the duration of Okereke's contract. And, keep in mind, he's only 27 years old. So he has a good 2-3 years left of high level play before we see any side of like age regression. But, what are your thoughts on Okereke? Has he reached your expectations? I imagine he has in droves. And how do you think he's impacted Micah McFadden and helped him become a better player?
I think taking a little bit of stress off Micah McFadden has really helped a lot because when you're looking at last season, what the Giants had in their linebacker core, Micah McFadden was asked to do way more than he ever should have been as a rookie, and he was playing with some really poor linebackers around him. And this is one of those positions where you're kind of dependent on one another, right? If your linebacker 1 isn't playing so well, your linebacker 2 will feel that. He will not be able to reach his assignments as well if the linebacker 1 isn't doing his job. If linebacker 1 is missing tackles, missing coverages, the guy goes into the other guy's zone, into linebacker 2's zone, into his tackling zone or coverage zone, and that causes more lapses and more opportunities for failure in the first place. So having a good player in front of Micah McFadden just takes away opportunities to make mistakes from him and also just gives him more reliability in the surrounding area. And I think that that's been a big help for Micah McFadden. But what do I really like about him? What have I seen from him that shows me this is a true starter for the New York Giants long term? I just think his play recognition, his ability to read offenses and shoot gaps and make plays. Are there things to improve? Absolutely. As you mentioned, he misses a lot of tackles. He also isn't that great in coverage, but we never expected him to be great in coverage. We never wanted Micah McFadden to be a great coverage linebacker. That's what they brought Bobby Okereke in for. He's been pretty good in coverage. He's been making plays as a coverage linebacker. But Micah McFadden is kind of your prototypical run-stuffing inside linebacker. Shoots the gaps, reads the offense, knows where the run is going, and meets the ball carrier at the spot. Again, he's got to start finishing more of those plays, making tackles at the spot, but he's getting to the spot, and he is stuffing runs, and I think that's really valuable. So what he does there in the run and defense portion of the game for the Giants is super valuable. Now, do I ever think that Micah McFadden will be the team's primary linebacker? Maybe. I think there's a world where that's possible, but again, he has to improve on some of his coverage abilities and some of his missed tackles. He has to get that solved, but there are really great traits to his game, not only even as a run defender, but even as a pass rusher. He's got 14 pressures this season. He's got 2 sacks, 8 quarterback hurries. He gets in the backfield, whether you're talking about as a run defender or as a pass rusher. He makes an impact, and he's often living in the backfield, which is what you really like to see from a young inside linebacker. He's got a motor that doesn't quit. He's constantly going in with all effort and making plays. So in his second season, was it perfect? No. But keep in mind, we are talking about a 5th-round draft pick selected just last season in Micah McFadden. He's far from a finished product. He's only 23. He's going to be 24 at the start of next season. He still has plenty of room to grow, as we mentioned, and he has plenty of time to grow. He's still got another 2 years on this rookie deal. And again, in his second season, to see him take such a big step forward from his rookie year to year 2 and be such a improved player in his second season, that's what gives you confidence in Micah McFadden long term and makes you say, okay, I think the Giants actually hit on a mid-round pick, and this is a player that is going to develop into a special starter for them over the next several seasons. And again, hitting on those mid-round picks really is the key here for the New York Giants to rebuild this roster, as we continue to discuss, especially entering into this upcoming offseason. That's going to be a crucial one for the Giants as they rebuild a roster that just missed the postseason once again. But then looking at Bobby Okereke, that's the ideal scenario for a free agent signing. You get a guy on a contract that's reasonable. They didn't go out there and pay Tremaine Edmonds, they didn't go after him and sign him for $18 million per season like the Chicago Bears did. That could have been one option for the New York Giants. You spend as much money as possible to get this kind of top of the market guy. They could have done that. Instead, they found a mid-market guy who is really good, hasn't fully realized his potential, and maybe just needs a change of scenery to do so. So they give him that change of scenery, they put him in Wink Martindale's system, and look at how Bobby Okereke has thrived in Martindale's system, has done it all: run defense, leadership, coverage, even a little bit of pass rushing here and there. Bobby Okereke has been exactly what the New York Giants defense has been missing for the better part of a decade, and they signed him this offseason for only 4 years, $40 million. $10 million per season for a linebacker who's arguably playing at an all-pro level. That's a bargain right there. So the Giants, that's their best signing of the offseason. You could stack it up against all of their acquisitions from the offseason. Take a look at Darren Waller or anybody else. It's easily Bobby Okereke was the best decision that they made all offseason. And it was a surprise one. It wasn't any of the top of the market guys. It was a guy who kind of flew under the radar of many fans, many analysts. But Bobby Okereke goes to show that there is something to be said about the talent scouting for the New York Giants front office now. There are guys in the front office who are able to evaluate talent and identify players across the league who maybe haven't realized their full potential and have a little bit more to be developed. And so now Okereke, in his first year with the New York Giants, his first year under Wink Martindale, he developed what was left in his game, and he's realized his full potential. And maybe there's even more. Maybe in year 2 of Wink Martindale's system, if Wink Martindale's back, he'll be asked to do more things, and he'll be able to handle even more from the linebacker standpoint for the Giants, and maybe you'll see an even better Bobby Okereke as he gets more comfortable in his second season with the New York Giants. Because as we know, and as we've heard from many, many NFL players who've played under Wink Martindale, this is a very complex scheme. There's usually a learning curve. It takes players several weeks before they start hitting their stride. I know Jason Pinnock said that earlier this season. He felt like the first 4 weeks of the season he was a little bit lost, but entering week 5 and going on and so forth, he's felt a lot more comfortable and he's played a lot better because of that. And I think that we also saw that with Bobby Okereke. Was he good from the start of the season all the way till now? Yeah, but he got really good at around week 6, midway point of the season, is when he really started to catch fire. So again, going into year 2 with the Giants, if he's got Wink Martindale again coaching him, I think even more experience in the system, more comfortability, you're going to see that benefit Bobby Okereke, and he could elevate his game even further in 2024. And that goes the same and maybe even double for a younger player like Micah McFadden as he continues to develop. He'll learn this NFL system that Wink Martindale employs because it is a really tricky one for players to understand. It is very complex. And again, this also goes for the third linebacker in this core, Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons was never able to find his footing in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. They wanted him to play linebacker. Scratch that. You're playing free safety. Scratch that. You're playing nickel corner. Scratch that. You're playing strong safety. The Giants simplified everything for Isaiah Simmons. They said, you are playing linebacker. You're playing off-ball linebacker, but only on passing downs. That's all you're going to be asked to do, and that's all you're capable of in our eyes for now until you learn this defense, and that's all they've asked him to do, and that's all he's done, and he's done it well. Isaiah Simmons hasn't been asked to pass rush. He hasn't been asked to line up in the nickel or line up at safety and be the Swiss Army knife that the Arizona Cardinals wanted him to be, and that, honestly, we wanted him to be coming out of college at Clemson many, many years ago, right? We thought that he could be that Swiss Army knife and move all over this team. The Giants said, no, we're not having you do that. You are just playing a linebacker, focusing in on what's most important and what your skill set most well adapts to. And so that's what Isaiah Simmons has done, and I think that's why we've seen arguably the best version of Isaiah Simmons that we've ever seen throughout his NFL career. And I think that's a storyline that's really flying under the radar for the New York Giants and really getting overshadowed by a lot of the negativity and shortcomings of this Giants team this season. They finally figured out how to utilize Isaiah Simmons. It took years for an NFL team to figure it out. With the Arizona Cardinals, it took the New York Giants probably about a half a season to realize this is what he's good at. We're only going to ask him to do these things, and now we're seeing maybe the best product that Isaiah Simmons has ever put onto the football field. And I think that is a true testament to the quality of the New York Giants coaching staff. Do we have our criticisms for this coaching staff, Alex? Absolutely. Especially on the offensive end, we have some problems there. And even on the defensive end, we've been critical of Wink Martindale in the past. But really, when you're looking at this linebacker core, the way that it developed this season and the way that they utilize the players in this linebacker core, it's definitely something to be impressed by. And I think the development of a guy like Isaiah Simmons, like Bobby Okereke, like Micah McFadden, the development of these guys really does speak volume to the quality of some of these guys in the New York Giants defensive coaching staff. How do you feel about that, kind of looking at the way that Isaiah Simmons, they kind of transformed his entire career here, asking him to do something very specific for the Giants defense, being that coverage linebacker on third and fourth downs? It's really propelled him into having maybe a career year with the New York Giants. And again, I think that it says a lot about the quality of this coaching staff.
Absolutely. Look, where the Giants lack in some spots, they have strengths in others, as I referenced. And I think the coaching at linebacker has been more than solid. And I think they have leaders there. You know what I mean? I think that was one of the major problems of the offensive lines. They don't feel like they have a leader, right? Justin Pugh is plucked off the freaking couch to come and give them some sort of leadership. That was really his value. He's not a great player anymore. He's like okay at best, probably below average by most accounts. But he's a leader. And the Giants don't have one. And it should be their coach. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I feel as though their coach should be their leader. And obviously that has not been the case in a lot of instances. So when you look at the linebacker core, they have leadership there. Bobby Okereke is a leader. Isaiah Simmons seems to be a guy that has high energy, can come in and make an impact. He almost had that pick six last week. He almost got in the way of that throw that Jalen Hurts had. Just barely missed it. But I like if we could bring back Simmons on like a 1-year deal, make him a more important part, I would be happy with that. But I think he's going to get an opportunity elsewhere, actually. I think he's going to get a chance to start for another team. Because, look, there's other teams that have much worse situations at linebacker than us. And they're going to look at Simmons and see what he did for the Giants and say, there's some value there, and he's going to be cheap. So I think maybe another team does elect to go out and try to snag him. But I think it was worth a gamble for the Giants. I think they got some good value out of him. If we were able to bring him back and he wanted to stay, so be it. I'd be happy and fine with that. Having depth at linebacker is never a bad thing, and they use Simmons quite a lot, actually. So I am happy with that in terms of utilizing his coverage abilities and obviously his athletic profile. But like you said, the coaching looked pretty solid at linebacker. I think McFadden is going to continue to develop. If he improves his missed tackle rate, he's going to be a really good player for this Giants team, my friends. I mean, Okereke and McFadden. And the thing that I hate about the Giants is that we finally figure one thing out that's been an issue for so long, and then we waste it. You know, we just waste it. Andrew Thomas, how long did it take us to get another left tackle? Now we finally have one. We can't build a team around them. How long did it take us to find the dominant interior pass rusher? I mean, we've had a lot of good run stoppers, Dalvin Tomlinson, and so many decent guys, Linval Joseph, Jonathan Hankins, not great pass rushers. We never had that really great pass rush and run stopping presence like Dexter Lawrence. Finally got him, and now we're wasting his prime years. And Saquon Barkley is another perfect example. Prime years, out the window. It sucks, and it really hurts to watch this team waste good players and waste good talent. And for what it's worth, we talk about Xavier McKinney being extended and whatnot. If I were him, I'd be like, look, if another good team wants me, why wouldn't I consider going there? Why wouldn't I, if there's the same amount of money and the Bengals come out and say, we need a free safety to lock our secondary down, or I'm just throwing the Bengals out there. It could be any team. It could be Buffalo. Buffalo's like, we like Xavier McKinney. We want to go out and get him to replace, I don't know, Jordan Poyer or whatever. We're going to go and get this young guy who is a really good player, and we're in a place to win now. We keep talking about, should we extend Xavier McKinney? I think there's a conversation to have that, why would you want to extend with us? You know what I mean? Why would you want to stay with a mediocre team that can't put together wins and can't get to the postseason and they made it last year, but, the consistency of it all. I really am curious to see how guys like that actually make that decision. Do they really want to stay here? I think it's something that we're going to have to talk a lot about this upcoming offseason. But, at least in the interim, we figured out a couple spots. We got our left tackle. We got our star interior defender. We got Kayvon Thibodeau, who I think is going to be a really solid player for a really long time. Deontay Banks looks like a CB1. We have some great talent here. I just think we need that extra piece. We need to figure out the offensive line, and we need to figure out the quarterback position, because that's really what the future holds. Deciding on those two things and the fate of this team will come with it. But, I imagine you're kind of in the same place in terms of we have some really good talent at key positions, and we're kind of wasting it right now, and it hurts to watch.
Yeah, I mean, such is the nature of the NFL. Oftentimes you see great Hall of Fame, even level careers just get wasted by poor teams. I mean, we've seen it a lot with the Detroit Lions over the years. I'm really happy that they have some good players now who have won a division and are going into the playoffs with a chance to maybe make a deep run. It's great for the Detroit Lions. I want to see it for the New York Giants. I don't want to see any more talents get wasted there. Obviously, we saw a decade ago some great players on a great New York Giants team hoist the Lombardi Trophy. But now going forward, I mean, looking at the past 7 to 8 years, it's been pretty tough sledding for the whole past decade. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., you could argue they wasted his prime. He was a tremendous player in his prime. He was never able to reach his full potential with the New York Giants, help the Giants reach their full potential. And really the final years of Eli Manning, I thought, were wasted by poor management up front with the offensive line, bad defenses. There was a lot of stuff that you could say and you could point to that the New York Giants failed to do properly, and it did result in wasted years for some New York Giants players. And I'm afraid of that happening again. I don't want that to continue. I want to see an elite all-pro left tackle like Andrew Thomas protect an elite quarterback and take this team deep into the playoffs and hopefully hoist one of those trophies that I really want to see the Giants hoist once again. And again, Dexter Lawrence, another elite all-pro player. He's the centerpiece of this New York Giants defense, but they got to keep building around him. They got to build around young guys too, like Kayvon Thibodeau, and not lose faith in him just because he had an up-and-down rookie and an up-and-down second season. You got to give him that third year and hope that it comes together for him and keep coaching him properly and putting talent around him. I really think that a lot of the Giants players who haven't reached their potential, part of the problem has been a lack of good players playing around them, and that's really tough. I mean, when you've got like 3 to 4 really good players plugged in the defense sporadically all throughout, it's tough for those guys to really reach their potential when everybody else around them is like replacement level or worse. You know, when you're looking at a player like Deonte Banks, it's tough for him to play well in zone coverage if you've got a linebacker or a safety who's supposed to be helping him with part of that zone coverage and he's not doing his assignment properly. The rookie cornerback's going to cheat and going to try and overcompensate and make plays that he's not ready to make because he's only a rookie. And so, of course, that lowers his PFF grade. That accounts for more yardage given up in coverage. It does all those things and really can shake a player's confidence as well. So it's not just about getting a few key pieces for the New York Giants. They have a few key pieces. It's about retaining those pieces, developing them, and developing the talent around them so you build a full and complete roster. Every roster is going to have its weaknesses. Even the Philadelphia Eagles, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, every team has their weaknesses, but they do have complete rosters, those top teams. They have depth at a lot of crucial positions and key places. They've got depth and they've got more full, filled out rosters with a lot of talent. It's about getting to that point for the New York Giants. You know that you're going to have some weaknesses, but around those weaknesses, have some talent built out, have some areas of real strength, elite strength, and then watch this team actually build its way into being contenders. Again, I think it starts at the quarterback position. We've talked about that enough, though, in recent weeks, and we'll continue to talk about it in the upcoming months. But right now, I will say I think that the New York Giants have one of those key pieces that right there in the center of their defense. This linebacker core has a few good players and some good depth. Now it's about kind of expanding. Let's go from the core to the outside. Let's build around those players in the middle of the defense. Add some more in front of them, add some more behind them, and watch how this Giants defense can really hit another gear next year. And also, in order for the Giants defense to do that, to continue to improve and play better, the offense needs to play better. The Giants offense has really been detrimental to the Giants defense this year. I'll continue to stand on that. That's been my take since about week 4, week 5. I think that the Giants defense was really solid this year in many ways. Sure, a lot of room for improvement, but that Giants offense, that's going to be the focal point as we reach this offseason in the next 3 weeks here. The New York Giants need to figure out what they're going to do on the offensive end, what they're looking at: new coaching, new quarterback, new receivers, whatever the case might be. Obviously, new offensive linemen. That's a desperate need for this team, but they got to figure it out on offense. That'll help them figure it out on defense, in my opinion. But it's a really exciting time for some of these New York Giants players, especially those linebackers that we discuss. We're going to dive into plenty more players as we head into this offseason and take a look at where this New York Giants offense, or really this entire roster, can improve. Some of the weaknesses, some of the strengths, all that good stuff. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
TVSO.